Exactly. That's how you can spot an MVP is that most humble person in the room. Definitely, for
Exactly.
sure. As we all know. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your timely source of Power Platform news and updates with your host, me, Ulrika Ackerbeck, and Nick Dolman. Hi,
Hey, how
Nick.
are you doing?
I'm
I'm doing
great. How are
well.
you?
Good. And big congrats to you on being renewed as an MVP for another year.
Thank you so
Exciting news.
much.
And big
Couldn't do it
congrats
without
that,
you.
oh, I think you could. You're good.
Probably not. It's the podcast, and that's it. I don't do anything else. So,
You do a lot more. I know
oh
you
yeah,
do. You're
yeah.
being humble, which is a trait of an MVP. So it's good.
Exactly. That's how you can spot an MVP is that most humble person in the room. Definitely, for
Exactly.
sure. As we all know. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Thank you. And you
And
saw
big
a lot of, sorry.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I was, yeah, I was about to. I think we're thinking the same thing, right? We saw on our LinkedIn and Twitter feeds and the socials yesterday a lot of our friends also being renewed, and congratulations to all of you. Way too many to mention. I was just hitting the like button on so many of these posts yesterday, and very happy for people. And a few people didn't get renewed either, but I think it was for them. They knew, sometimes I realize it is a huge commitment. I haven't been there myself, um, just a lot of extra things you kind of do outside of your regular work or outside of your family and everything. And then, yeah, sometimes you just have to balance priorities and reshift. And I know there's a few folks that I guess you could say have retired from the MVP program. And again, congrats to them for the service they did, and all the best. And the thing is, just because you don't have that MVP badge, and I think I've proven this, you still could be a very big participant in the community and doing all this other fun stuff that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great honor to be renewed, but still, that most of us, we do this because we like it, because we think it's fun, and it's great to be rewarded for it. But the work is the work still. So, action to say enough is enough, and retire from the program. I do. Yeah, it's good for them. Right.
Cool.
So we have 2 weeks of news to go through. The list is long as ever. I don't think we'll ever run out of things to talk about. Um, and first of all, I want to highlight something that Amey Holden did. Now, I'm a huge fan of Amey Holden, and anything that she puts up, I read, just by default, because all her stuff is so great. And she's really diving hard and far into the rabbit hole in Power Automate on this one. So it's her blog post that I read, Dynamics 365 Real-Time Marketing Segments with Power Automate. Now, she writes that, first of all, she figured out how to convert spreadsheets of contacts and leads into old school marketing lists. Now, that's great in of itself. But then she wanted to see if she could publish Dynamics 365 real-time marketing segments with a Power Automate flow. And she does it. And it's so cool to see her approach and how she goes by it. And I think also one of the key things to take away for me, at least, is all the small details and things that she shows us how to do that I really didn't know the Power Automate could do, and how she writes the queries, and there's so many new little tidbits for me to pick up. And I think she's incredibly talented and very good developer. So just wanted to highlight that. Good job, Amey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, Amy's amazing. I love her stuff as well. Just learn so many things. Yeah, no, keep up the good work, and then hopefully we'll be able to finally meet her in person at Nordic Summit, as opposed to virtually.
Yeah, she's having a workshop with George Dominski, as we talked about last time, right?
Yeah, cool. And then
Did you
the
pick
next
up
thing you
anything?
did I pick up news this week? I'm not sure what's going on. Oh yeah, so of course it's interesting. All the you see this on LinkedIn, and of course Microsoft pushes this. The Forrester report comes out, and there's also the Gartner reports. And the big thing is they have all these people that are evaluating the industry and evaluating trends. And what they do is they go into a room and they get a big whiteboard and they draw a box. And they draw four corners of this box, and they start putting these little dots of all these providers. And and if your dot is in the upper right hand, whose ever dot is in the highest upper right hand corner, I think wins a prize or something, or proves that it is the one of the leaders in our industry. And of course, the Power Platform ranked number one out of 28 for the low code platform for developers. So that's a huge accomplishment in itself. There are a lot of competitors. Like, yeah, I realize Microsoft is big and very well known, but still to actually, this is, I think, is a pretty good achievement, and also kind of reaffirms that folks listening to this podcast and ourselves, we know that we're working in the right technology, in the right area. So that was really cool to see. And what's interesting is with these Forrester reports and these Gartner reports and things, if we probably can't actually publish the actual chart in our show notes, because I know on LinkedIn a few other folks in our community were publishing this, and actually it got they were told not to because it is a published report. I'm not sure why, but
Wow.
regardless of that little the thing, that is something to look out for. The latest Forrester report talking about Microsoft being rated 1 out of 28 as the low code platform for developers. So
Wow.
congrats,
That's so
Microsoft.
cool. Yeah,
That's
and a couple of things. So the first one out of 28 low code platforms. That's first of all, there's 28 low code platforms out there, and Microsoft Power Platform is only one. That is, I think, it's not surprising to me, but I haven't seen that number anywhere. And that's, to me, that's showing where this is going. It's a huge wave of low code platforms out there, and Microsoft Power Platform is just one. I think that's cool. And then local platforms for developers. That's also something that stuck out to me. This is a developer platform. And I think that's one thing that many people forget, because we've talked about low code and citizen developers for so long, but it is a developer platform. And also something, in the same line, Carsten Groth also had a blog post this week about pro dev and low code. And it's a summary of the talk that he had on European Power Platform together with Nicholas Kerman, where they talked about pro dev and low code, with or without you. Now, this blog post, he highlights 4 key things that you need to consider when pro devs are adopting low code Power Platform. First, understand that each journey might be different. So a developer isn't a developer. There's so many different perspectives on the platform, so many different developer backgrounds. You need to consider where they're coming from when they're adopting the platform. And also, they need to learn what the building blocks are. There is a learning curve whenever a developer is adopting this kind of platform. And to have the mindset of seeing that change is an opportunity, and also bringing in AI. I love the blog post. I think it's a great summary of a lot of the things that we talked about during European Power Platform Conference a couple of weeks ago. So really recommend reading through that blog post.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that Karsten, he took his presentation and turned it into a blog post. I know, like you do that as well. When you do, I've seen you do presentations and then you have corresponding blog posts. So I think that's great. So that's just, again, if you're doing a presentation, this is another great way to share, because as you saw from our recaps, there was no way we could be at every single session. And so in a way, maybe in a way we missed out on a lot. I think we gained a lot of cool info, but this is a great way to continue that sharing and to continue to build up that momentum from your presentations, is to turn it into a blog post. So yeah, thanks Karsten for
Yeah.
doing that.
And it may save your butt when your computer's, crashing just before you're doing a session, and then you have to borrow a computer, and then you can, pull up your blog post and do it from there.
And no
Happened
one,
to me
and
last year in Nordic Summit.
but no one knew. No one. It was an amazing presentation. No one knew none was the wiser from that. So it's good.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then other stuff that came out was the Power Apps June feature update. Now I'm not going to go through each and every one of these items. We're going to put a link to that actual blog post that we will put a link to. But there's so many things around maker productivity and user productivity and trust, things that they're kind of building in. So for Power Apps, it is a continual evolution of a way to build business applications. And so a couple things they talked about, like the Excel to table to app is in now public preview. So you can take your Excel sheets. I know I played with this initially. I was a little underwhelmed, but I think they've added some new things to make this a little bit more powerful. And this is just going to continue to evolve. Big one is co-authoring. Back in the day when I started, building XRM apps in CRM version 3 and whatever, there were times where, you work with someone else and you accidentally overwrote the other person's stuff, or you didn't know they were publishing customizations at the same time. So seeing co-authoring becoming more and more prevalent in the modern app designer, that's amazing, because this way you can it helps the collaboration. Of course, there's, test studios are being added, enhanced component properties. Of course, brand new components are being added into both Canvas apps and model-driven apps. A lot of cool stuff there. And then the other thing, monthly channel for model-driven apps, because what happens with the waves, this thing would only come every twice a year, I believe. But now you have the option, you can go in and you can actually get these updates done monthly to your platform. So you get some of these new features more quickly. The other thing that kind of caught my eye too was the shared device mode for Power Apps, where work on factory floors or distribution centers and that kind of thing, kind of those kiosk type level Power Apps, where you might be sharing an iPad or a device or something like that. And then this way, different users, it helps with the sharing of those, users could log in and out. So you're not all using the same user one at ABC company. And then that way, again, it helps with the tracking and the auditing and everything like that. And then, of course, general availability of wrap for Power Apps as well. And that's for distributing apps within your corporation without having to, load the Power Apps app and load the app between that. This is a way to distribute this. So pretty cool. So ton of information there. Definitely check it out if you're building Power Apps, or even if you're not, just to know what's available. It's always cool to keep on top of these things. And it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. And I find that in customer meetings as well, those requirements, when you read through an update like that, it seems like a very niche requirement, but suddenly in a customer meeting, there will be a requirement like that. And to be able to say, yes, I saw this in the update, and then elaborate and send the links, that's a way to actually get that customer's attention. And it happened to me a lot. So really recommend you do that.
It's a good way to build credibility as well. It's like, oh, this is a problem.
Yes.
Here's a way to fix that. And you look like
this just came out this week. Exactly. So it shows that you're up to date. And Power Apps are not the only ones doing the monthly updates. So both Power BI and Power Automate is also doing a monthly update. So from June 2023 update for Power Automate for desktop, I caught what caught my eye is the OneDrive for Business connector and new actions that have been introduced. Now, I'm not really working with Power Automate for desktop at all. It's very rarely that I ever touch it. But to see that you now have a huge list of actions for OneDrive for Business, that must be good news for those who work with Power Automate for desktop for sure. So you have upload file, delete file metadata, links, URLs, thumbnails, folders, you name it. It's a whole list of things that you now you're able to do. So that's great news.
Yeah, the thing is, Power Automate from desktop, it's one of these things that's on my list. I need to get more familiar with it because I'll go through a process where I'll click five things. I'll go through the same five steps. And then the back of my head's going, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I think, oh, I should figure out Power Automate desktop. Um, but sometimes you get into this mode. I'm too busy cutting down trees to sharpen my saw. I don't know if you've heard that expression before. So,
Yeah.
but Power Automate desktop is one of those things that I think, if I kind of dug into it, could probably save me a lot of time for some of these. I mean, that's the whole point, right? To fix these repetitive tasks. On this is just on a personal level, but obviously with Power Automate desktop, it does so much more on a kind of enterprise level as well. And of course, if you're working with OneDrive for business, this is just going to really help things along.
Yeah, absolutely. I always imagine, you've seen the cartoon, right? Where you have these old people, with a cart and the square wheel, and then someone
Yeah.
comes along with this, round wheel, and it's like, no, we're too busy with your, keep that to yourself. And that's what I imagine when I when I feel myself, for instance, also working with Power Automate, we have a trigger in a PIM system somewhere, and I have to go in and edit all the fields in order for it to trigger. And I find myself doing that over and over instead of just changing the trigger while I develop the thing and then moving. But I'm almost there. Just this little tweak and just this little change, and then I'm done. And then 2 weeks in, I'm still doing the trigger from the PIM, and then just
I
get
think
so annoyed
there's a
with
rule of
myself.
thumb somewhere where it's like if you have to do things more than like so many times per month, then it's worth your time to invest into automate it. So
Yeah, definitely. All right. So something else that got my eye this week was Miguel Vervey is another MVP. He has a blog post, and it seems it's a challenge. It seems to me that he's giving himself challenges to do stuff, and then he writes a blog post going through how he attacks that challenge and what he goes through to solve it. It's called OpenAI plus Canvas Apps Challenge 019. And the key takeaways that he sums up at the bottom is that, Azure OpenAI is now private preview. So that's what he's trying to play with. And there are custom connectors ready to use. And yeah, this is something that will evolve over time. And so if you're playing around with Azure OpenAI and Canvas apps, then this is a blog post you should read, because he's so good at going through all the details, the screenshots, and all the way down through whatever he experiences along the way. And this is also someone that is good at describing the issues that come up along the way. How did he think about what did he do to mitigate and come around it? So this is really, really huge if you're into this. So definitely a read.
Yeah, and I looked through some of his other challenges as well, and this is it's a great way to approach doing blogs. It's sort of like, here's the challenge, here's how you go through it, and I mean, the thing is with docs, we're kind of limited. We're like, this is feature documentation. Here's the steps to set it up, blah, blah, blah. Where in a blog like this, it's like, hey, I'm setting this up. I'm running into this problem. Here's why. Here's the challenge. There can be a lot more commentary to this. And that's why I'm really enjoying this particular blog series, because it does sort of gives a human element to the processes and also to help learn as well. Speaking of processes, something I stumbled upon, which I thought was really cool, is this Power Platform ALM decision tree. So it's funny, years ago, there was no Power Platform ALM or Dynamics 365 or Dynamics CRM ALM. You had to hack together things using PowerShell. There were a couple community tools out there, but ALM really wasn't a thing. Now we're in a world where maybe ALM's not perfect, but you have so many choices. You have pipelines, you have Azure DevOps, you have GitHub, you have these accelerators. There's the ALM accelerator. There's, like I said, pipeline. So there's all of these things. And then still the majority of people are probably still doing the manual export and import of solutions. I do see this quite a bit. So it's like, because, and I think part of it is, yeah, but what's the right way? Where do you start? What ALM strategy should we use? And of course, and then working with some of customer projects and things like that, they might have particular tools that they like that might be different from a different customer. So there's all these choices. So what this is, it's pretty straightforward. And I mean, again, it's all about you take it for what it is, and you might not agree with everything, but still, it's pretty cool. It's a guide. It's a flow chart where it starts where source and all destinations on managed environments, yes or no, and then do you want to use source control? Then use this, and it kind of goes through the whole decision tree and allows you to kind of pinpoint what might be the best ALM tool set for you to use for your particular situation. So yeah, it's definitely cool to talk a lot about managed environments. There's a lot of useful links there as well. So just to help you along with your ALM journey and making those decisions, it's definitely something to check out.
Yeah, that's on the Power Apps community blog, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
So
there's so much good content there. So yeah, definitely good job. Yeah. I caught something this week as well. I wanted to, run by you. I saw for Power Pages, migrate website configuration. Now, I've been under the impression that when I download the portal, I can upload that portal to any new environments that I want, right? So that's been available through the CLI for a while. Why do I need the new migrate site configuration then? Because I read through this, there's a blog post about it, and I couldn't really figure out what's new.
What's new?
Can you tell me?
Yeah, for sure.
What's new with this? Why would we need this?
Why do we need this? Well, it's funny because I worked on that document. It's
There's a reason why I'm asking you, Nick.
Oh,
it's not completely random.
Oh, you know a guy. Yeah.
Oh, I know a guy.
Perfect. So yeah, so typically migrating Power Pages from one site to another. Originally, way back in the day, there was the data migration tool. That is sort of the Microsoft prescribed way. Probably a lot of us use the Portals Records Mover by Tanguy Tizard out of the XRM Toolbox. Big fan. That is amazing tool. Still is. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that came out a couple months ago is now with the new enhanced data model, which is still in preview. You can move website configuration using solutions. All good. Now, not the problem, but the issue is as soon as you move, as people know, Power Pages, website configuration is stored in Dataverse. So effectively, you're just moving data. You're moving Dataverse records from one Dataverse environment to another. So what happens is when you move it to your destination environment, you still don't have a website created, that website that lives in Azure. So what do you typically do? Well, you'll move your configuration and then you'll provision a new website. You'll just create a brand new website, which will create a whole set of metadata that's a blank site or whatever template you use. And then what you'll do is you go into PPAC or the Power Platform and Mid Center, and then you'll change the pointer to point this newly created website, blank website you created, but to point it to the data that you migrated over. So, I mean, this works fine, but the problem is now that you have two sets of metadata, it's kind of clunky. It's not all that doesn't make that much sense. So what's new in the migrate website configuration, there's a new section in there, and you'll see this if you go to the Power Pages homepage in your list of sites, you'll notice it's under tabs now. You have two tabs. One's called active sites, which is the sites that you've created. And then there's another one called inactive sites. So what lives in the inactive sites? First off, if you've migrated portal configuration, whether you've used Portal Records Mover or you've used the data migration tool or you've used PAC CLI or you've used solutions, all the ways to move portal data, the first time you do it under the inactive sites, you're going to see that there. So what you can do there is, as opposed to provisioning a brand new portal and relinking it, this will actually provision a new website based on that inactive data or that data that you've migrated over. So this saves you a step. So you don't even need to provision a portal on your destination environment now ahead of time or even afterwards. You can go in, migrate your data, and then choose that and then provision your website. So this also,
wow.
So this saves you some time. It makes your whole Dataverse much more cleaner. The other thing, if you spun up a trial portal and then it expired, and then you realize wow, that portal I spun up like 6 months ago that's now expired, does that mean I have to restart all over again? No. What you can do is you can go into inactive sites as long as you didn't delete that metadata. And when a trial expires, it won't delete that metadata. You'd be able to choose that expired trial and then provision a new site based on that, so you don't lose anything. So that's really
Wow.
what's new in that migrate website configuration.
So much that I didn't think about. That's great news. And then, of course, that will also, because when you want to move a portal from one environment to another, is like, oh, what template was that? What language was that? Then it will always, bring that along. You don't have to think about that anymore.
Yeah, it's a
Smart.
when I saw that, it was like, where was this like years ago already, right? And it was again
Oh, yeah,
a very subtle change, not a lot of fanfare, but very huge impact. Definitely working with Power Pages.
absolutely. Oh, I'm so good that you were here, that we got that cleared out.
Cool, glad to have helped. So a couple other things on the news or things that have caught our eye. This still is a pretty big list. We're doing pretty good on time, I must say. I say that now, and then in about 20 minutes, you're gonna be rolling your eyes. So, a good friend of ours, someone I've worked with in the past a little bit, Steve Mordue, who's very well known in the community. Um, he's not. I wouldn't call him a developer per se. He has his business, and he's created something called the Rapid CRM, which is like I would say a CRM more geared to smaller, medium business that's built on the Power Platform on Dataverse without you having to go to the full Dynamics 365. Plus, he does a blog a lot on business. He had this neat little series. I'm not sure if he's done it lately, where he just supposedly calls people out of the blue at Microsoft and pings them on questions. I think that's a little bit staged, and it's a whole funny story about how some of the demos did. That's a big story for another day. But a year ago on his blog, and he actually has a podcast based in his blog where it's called Steve Reads His Blog. Um, he talked about in his business about implementing Power Platform as a subscription service. Now, I know I've worked for consulting companies and I've also done my own consulting, and typically we sell our time by hours. Like I'm sure your company probably works on a very similar thing, right? Like this project is going to be so many hours. There's a rate per hour. They might negotiate, more of a bulk, whatever. But effectively, time equals hour, like work equals hours, and that's how it's measured. Steve has taken the approach of implementing Power Platform as a subscription service where companies will pay a monthly fee. And based on that monthly fee, then they'll get things configured. So they're not measuring hours, they're not measuring time. I'm assuming that there is some sort of, negotiation in terms of the scope and effort, what's going to be involved and stuff. But the idea there is it takes a lot of the pressure off of watching those hours, going over budget, scope creep and all those types of things. So, and Steve is good at sharing what he's learned along the way. And I talked to Steve last year in Orlando. I hadn't seen him in person for a while before that. And I said, how's the new subscription service going? And he goes, definitely learning new things. We're trying different things out, but it's coming along. And then this past week, he actually produced kind of a white paper or a guide on implementing Power Platform as a subscription service. So we'll have the link that you can download that. Of course, you have to give give your name and email address so Steve can spam you. And I think that's perfectly, it's a good trade-off because the guide really goes through this whole process that he adopted for his business, and he's willing to share that. So I really appreciate Steve for doing that. And definitely that's something, if you're running a business or a consulting firm and you want to take a, look at a different approach to providing your services, it is worth investigating and checking out.
Yeah, definitely. I worked kind of similar like that for a while, or for another customer as well. After we were done implementing, the big project that they initially wanted us for, they kept us on an hourly or on a monthly rate. So they would have, I think 4 days each month to just keep on going and do those small requirements and those small flows and the power ups requirements that came from that big project, and then that always creates a lot of new leads for other projects, and then we just kept going for years and years. And I think that builds trust, and it, you can keep learning about the business, and as you evolve over time, you will learn how they work and operate and their pains, and then you'll be more able to solve the problems for them. So definitely a great way to work with the Power Platform as well.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah. Great. And then you saw something else from Steve, right? He's been busy this week.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and Steve's great at sharing with the community. And he has a certain aspect of how he does stuff. But he posted a pretty cool question for people who are new to the Power Platform or new to business apps. So where do you start? And originally he was saying, we always told people to start with Power Automate. Just start writing some flows, like we talked about a few minutes ago, about making processes more efficient. And I'm a big fan of Power Automate, and I totally agree. There's a lot of things you can use Power Automate for, even like on a business level, to make it more efficient. But sometimes it's, again, getting to start trying to figure that out. It's a little bit, trying to get there kind of thing. And then he switched his tune a little bit in this thread. He talked about, now he's saying start with Power Apps, and specifically model-driven apps, taking those big complex spreadsheets and turning those into a model-driven app. And this is right up my alley. I made a career in the late 2000s. That's pretty much what the company I ran did. We took people's bloated Excel spreadsheets, their Access databases, and we converted that into applications sitting on top of that time dynamic CRM, where effectively today it's creating model-driven apps. And even though it is sort of like a pseudo CRM system, we basically, I know one organization that had at least between like a dozen, if not more, Access databases doing different things, but still kind of linking to the same customers and stakeholders. And they had to duplicate data, and if they had to update a phone number across different Access databases, we brought that all into effectively Dataverse with a model-driven app, talking in modern terms, and really revolutionized how they did things, sharing information, yet still using the different tables to manage the unique aspects. So Steve kind of, again, in his thread kind of relates to that about, this is a great way to start, because all of a sudden now, as opposed to living in, that bloated Excel sheet, that person who built it has now moved on. You've now all this, your mission critical data sitting in an actual proper system. And to build model-driven apps, there's certain aspects to it, but model-driven apps truly, truly are the low-code app building tool.
Yeah.
They're, very utilitarian. They may not be pretty, but you can easily manage it. And then once you learn, like I tell people when I'm teaching about model-driven apps, once you know how to work one model-driven app, you know how to work all of them. It's just a matter of knowing what the data is. So interesting thread. We'll post that in our show notes as well. Then maybe you could, if you have your own opinions, you could comment on that and see if you get a response from Steve. But it is something that was pretty cool, and it was a good discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't you have a blog post that's called "You Don't Need a Business Application App, You Need a Model-Driven App" or something like that?
It's you don't need a CRM, you need a Power App. And
exactly.
There's an older blog on that. Plus, I did a session at Scottish Summit, kind of the same thing. It's like and there's a whole story involved in that, where I was implementing Power Platform at a company, and then they said, "Oh, but we're looking for a CRM system. This is integrate with Salesforce." And I'm like, what do you need a CRM system for? Well, to manage our stakeholders. And you have that already. It's there. It's in the model-driven app. I'll show you. And they were like, wow, they saved like hours in system evaluation and everything like that. So maybe we'll try to find that link, because I believe that might have been recorded as well. So
and back to the know what's in the box.
Yes.
Know what's out of the box. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we'll dig that up for sure. And last on our list, I just want to point out that last time we talked about the A to Z of accessibility by Mike Hartley, and we said that we will hold him to it. Yep. He will do the A to Z, and we will not A to C, A to Z.
It's A
Sorry,
to Z. Yeah,
and we
that's right.
A to Z.
Yeah.
Yes, and we'll hold him to it, and we will, and we are. So I think by this time he has A and B out. A is for ARIA tags. I guess most people are familiar with that in terms of HTML writing, HTML, and doing ARIA tags for accessibility. And then he's talking about borders in Power Apps. So I think he's doing a good job so far, and we're really just cheering him on and keep going.
Go Mike, go Mike.
Yeah, good. Yeah, go Mike, go Mike. And also, I wanted to say, I discovered this week, Mike Hartley and Alison Mulligan, they have a podcast called The Things We Don't Talk About. And it's about mental health and inclusion and accessibility. And they bring guests on. So they've had Emma Darcy, Donna Sakar, Carl Cookson, and Marlene Metnes so far. And it's great. It's down to earth. It's honest. It's open. It's vulnerable. And it's awesome. And I really want to thank you guys for doing this. It's so important. Please go listen. It's Hartley and it's nice. So
yeah,
good job.
I'll definitely check that, because I mean that is something that, as much as it sounds like we're all having fun, and you see the blog posts from people in our community and the presentations and things like that, I also know within our community, within tech community in general, there's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of exasperation. We are kind of working long hours. We're dealing with difficult customers. There's other issues that, maybe family issues at home, and like everybody's human. We're going through stuff. Everybody does. And then sometimes we just need to call it out and just remind ourselves that we are dealing with humans. And even goes back to the that keynote that we saw at the European Power Platform Conference with Pellegrino Rodrigo, about that whole human connection and the relationships and things like that. So that's great. Mike and Alison, of course, happy birthday to Alison. It was her birthday this past week. So shout out.
And I get to do this again.
Yeah. So
you need to record that and just play that.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it every time.
Put it on my stream deck. Just press a button.
Yeah. But it's so important work, and I really appreciate them taking the time to do this and talk about these things. And for me, I've been in this community. I started as an MEP during COVID, and it's just now that I actually get to meet these superstars that I've been watching and reading blog posts from for so long in person and connect with them. And I must say, the experience that I'm having connecting with the Power Platform community, it feels like a safe space from the start. It's special to me also to be able to go into a new community, a new group of people, and feel accepted from the start. That's something that doesn't happen to me all that often. And so I just want to say, to all of them, and from the bottom of my heart, really, really do appreciate the way that you've embraced me, and I feel really welcome. And I think that goes for the Power Platform community at large. I hear that often. People feel welcomed and included and accepted for who they are. And that's rare also in the world today. Yeah. And it's because we can talk about the things that people don't normally talk about. So I think this is just them talking about the things that they normally can't talk about. But I think that's something great about our communities. We are able to, and we can have those conversations. And I love it.
Cool. Yeah, no, totally, 100%, totally agree. I mean, I'm involved in the community for a while, and what's cool is I can go anywhere in the world, and if I have like a flat tire or something, or just need somebody to talk to, have a beer or coffee with, there's usually someone close by, and sometimes people not even meet in person before, and you just start hanging out, and it's just the coolest thing. So. Yeah. And speaking of the community, and to celebrate that, saw this week that the crew that's behind South Coast Summit putting together something called the UK Community Awards, UK, United Kingdom, I'm assuming. And this is where anybody can go and vote and submit nominations for different awards in the Microsoft tech community. You don't have to be in the UK. So you could vote for, up and rising superstar, community champion. You can also vote for your favorite podcast. Just saying.
Oh,
But yeah, so definitely, I think there's a lot of people. It's cool that they're creating this platform to recognize people that are in the community, and it looks pretty cool. It looks like they're going to have like an actual like awards gala kind of thing, probably like the
ooh,
Oscars. So,
nice.
yeah,
You were awarded that Community Champions Award once, weren't you?
that was for the CRM UG, the CRM user UG year group. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and that was really cool to get. That was 2019. Um, yeah, so it
Just
is.
before COVID.
Yeah, right, but yeah, right before the world went sideways. But it was.
Mm.
I don't need the awards. Like I do this kind of for myself and stuff. But it is cool to be recognized sometimes. So yeah,
No, but
cool.
you deserve it, definitely. And that's
Thanks.
also something that I experienced during, European Power Platform Conference. Walking beside you in that community, it's just an amazing feeling because whenever, everyone. Everyone comes up, you give hugs to everyone, everyone knows you. I see the way that the community values you. And yeah, and I know, being your friend, it's best thing in the world, and you do make people feel good. So that's yeah, that's completely right. That's what it should be.
Well,
It's
thank
good.
you. Um, I'm I am humbled and honored to hear that.
Now you're talking like a real MVP. I say real MVP because you know,
Oh, I
yeah,
appreciate that.
one badge or
You
another
just
badge. Who
um,
cares?
but yeah, just seeing what you're doing up and coming in the community as well. Oh no, yeah,
Stop. You don't get to do that. So we're moving on.
okay,
Community events. Now, someone has done something clever. How to know all the community events out there? Could someone please just collect all the community events in one place, please?
yes, and our good
And
friend
someone did.
who who is good at gathering and putting everything in one place, Guido Pittry. I every time I screw up his last name. Our friend Guido has put together this site, communityevents.it, and we'll have a link in our show notes as well. But this is where all the community events, they're all in one place. These are for in-person events, so not the virtual ones. And I believe it's anywhere where the event is below $5 entry fee. There is or it's free, or there's just like what Nordic Summit's doing, like a cancellation fee or something like that. So this is one-stop shop for all the community events. And if you have a community event that you're running, you can submit that as well. So it'll be listed there. And this is great
Yeah.
because I like it for a couple of reasons. First off, if I happen to know I'm going to be traveling for work or a conference or something, or I know, or for that matter, if I'm going to go compete in a powerlifting thing somewhere, now I can actually go and see if there's going to be any community events in that particular place I'm traveling to. And you can kind of just drop in kind of thing. Or it's just another way to, for someone new to the community and they're like, I wonder if there's anything happening in my own city, be able to go and check that out. So it's a way to bring people together. And Guido, thank you very much for putting this site together. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Guido also put together the PCF gallery as a way to get all the PCF controls in one spot. So again, definitely check that out.
Yeah. And it's just to clarify, so it's for you as an event host, it's free if the ticket is up to $20 US dollars. And then you are able to put your event up there, but you will need to pay if you do take submissions that are higher than $20.
Oh, is that how it
I think
works?
that's the deal.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it is only in-person events. Now, Guido, please, can we please have digital events there as well? That would be so cool because then it would actually be the one-stop shop for all events across the board. And that would be great too, because then now this is great. And I applaud you. It's good work. But then I would wish that this would be the one-stop shop done and not only the in-person events. So that's just my little rant there. So please allow us to post all events, period. That would be great.
Cool. And
worth a shot.
For sure.
Yeah. And so events that you will find there are, for instance, Nordic Summit that we're both going to. We have a session there on 10 tips and tricks for Power Pages, and you're doing a pre-day workshop.
Yep.
You'll probably not find a Microsoft Power Platform conference there, or maybe you will.
Who knows?
Don't think so.
If you launch
community events,
I noticed if you launch Power Apps, you will find an ad for Microsoft Power Platform conference there.
Oh, they're all over the place. Yeah. I don't think there's anywhere in the Power Platform you don't find that. I think it's both at the top and then on the bottom left and everywhere. But then, if you want to get your ticket, don't forget to use Boost 100. So that's Boost and then 100 in numbers for $100 discount on your ticket. I think we've said that wrong a couple of times because we thought it was only Boost for a while. So if you tried the Boost discount, it didn't work. That's because we're doofuses and we didn't, think about the fact that it should be Boost 100. So
right. And just to keep things, not confusing, it's Boost 40 for the Nordic Summit pre-day workshops.
It's in relation to the discount that you'll get, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then also other events coming up. Scottish Summit is coming up August 5th. I won't be there in person, but I'm organizing a panel. And then I believe South Coast Summit is coming that we talked about the UK Community Awards. That's coming, I think, later in October as well. But of course, I mean, this is why we have that. Guido created that community event site to list these things. So, but you can also hear about it here on the Power Platform Boost podcast.
Yeah. And I think that's it for today. I think we reached the bottom of our news lists. So thank you so much for listening to us talk about the news and what's up in the Power Platform world. Make sure to leave a rating and a review on your favorite streaming service. And that makes it easier for others to find us, and share this podcast with other, friends and colleagues and other people from the community if you like it. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
That's good. Thanks for listening. And our next episode, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Release Wave 2. So look forward to that.
Yeah, it's on July 26th, I think. That's the next episode comes out. Great. See you then, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.